The forest woke slowly as the sun rose above the tall trees. Soft light passed through thick leaves and touched the ground in thin lines. The air smelled of wet soil and old wood. Birds moved quietly between branches, and the wind whispered through the pine needles. This forest had stood for hundreds of years, untouched and protected. Ravi walked alone along a narrow trail. He was a forest ranger, and this land was his responsibility. He had walked these paths many times before, in every season and weather. He knew where animals crossed, where streams flowed, and where old trees leaned with age. The forest trusted him, and he trusted it. That morning, something felt wrong. The forest was too quiet. Ravi slowed his steps and listened. There were no bird calls. No insects moved in the grass. Even the wind felt weak, like it was holding its breath. Ravi stopped and looked around. His eyes moved from the tree tops to the ground. That was when he noticed deep marks in the soil. They were wide and uneven. Wheel marks. Ravi knelt and touched the dirt. It was fresh and soft. These tracks were new. Vehicles were not allowed in this area. No one had permission to bring heavy equipment into this part of the forest. Ravi felt a tight feeling in his chest. He stood up and followed the tracks. They led away from the main trail and deeper into the forest. The trees grew closer together, blocking more sunlight. Shadows stretched across the ground. The air became cooler. As Ravi walked, a strange smell reached him. It was sharp and unpleasant. It did not belong in a natural place like this. He covered his nose and moved carefully. After a short distance, he saw something unusual between two large trees. An old wooden wagon stood hidden under branches and leaves. Its wheels were cracked, and moss covered the wood. At first, it looked like it had been there for years. But the fresh tracks told another story. Ravi approached slowly. Inside the wagon were several large metal barrels. They were thick and heavy. Rust covered their sides, but the lids were tightly sealed with strong metal locks. The seals looked new. Ravi felt a cold wave move through his body. There were no markings on the barrels. No labels. No warnings. Nothing to explain who owned them or why they were here. The smell grew stronger near the wagon. Ravi stepped back. His training told him not to touch anything. Unknown materials could be dangerous. He took out his radio to call for help. He pressed the button, but only weak noise came out. No signal. Ravi looked around again. The forest felt different now. The trees stood still, and the ground seemed tense. It was as if the forest itself was afraid. Someone had brought these barrels here on purpose. They had chosen a place far from people and roads. They wanted them hidden. Ravi marked the location on his map. He decided to leave and return with support. As he turned away, he heard a faint sound behind him. A metal noise, soft but clear. Ravi froze. He slowly turned back toward the wagon. One of the barrels had a dark liquid leaking from the edge of its lid. The liquid moved slowly down the side and dripped onto the wooden floor of the wagon. From there, it fell onto the soil. Ravi watched in shock. Where the liquid touched the ground, the grass began to change. The green color faded, turning dark and lifeless. The soil hardened and cracked. Ravi's heart raced. This was not natural. Whatever was inside those barrels was harmful. He stepped farther back, afraid to get closer. He had seen storms, fires, and injured animals before. But this was different. This was something unknown. Ravi knew the forest was in danger. He hurried away from the wagon, keeping his eyes on the ground to avoid touching anything. As he moved through the trees, he noticed more signs. Small plants near the tracks looked weak. Leaves had lost their color. The smell followed him. Someone had already caused damage. When Ravi reached higher ground, his radio signal returned. He stopped and called the ranger station. His voice was calm, but his hands shook. He reported the wagon, the barrels, and the leak. He explained the changes in the soil and plants. The team on the other side went silent for a moment. They told Ravi to stay where he was and wait for instructions. Ravi sat on a fallen log and looked back toward the forest. The trees stood tall, but something dark now hid among them. He felt a deep sense of responsibility. This forest had been protected for generations. If those barrels spread their contents, the damage could be beyond repair. Ravi thought about the animals that lived there. The deer, the birds, the insects, and the old trees. None of them could protect themselves from what was hidden in the wagon. Someone had brought danger into this place. And Ravi was the first to find it. As the sun climbed higher, the forest remained quiet. The hidden wagon waited between the trees. The sealed barrels held a secret that could change everything. Ravi knew this was only the beginning. Ravi waited on the rocky hill while the forest stayed silent around him. The sun had moved higher, but the air still felt heavy. He kept looking toward the trees where the wagon was hidden. He felt like something was watching from inside the forest, even though nothing moved. After some time, he heard the sound of engines. 2 ranger vehicles stopped near the edge of the trail. Several people stepped out, all wearing protective gear. Their faces were serious. One of them was Arun, the head ranger. He had worked in the forest longer than Ravi and knew every rule and danger. Another was Meena, an environmental safety officer sent from the city. She carried equipment and notebooks. Ravi stood up and walked toward them. He explained everything again. The wagon, the barrels, the smell, the dark liquid and the dead grass. Arun listened carefully and nodded. Meena did not speak at first. She asked Ravi to lead them to the site but told everyone to move slowly and carefully. They walked in a single line through the trees. The forest still felt wrong. Even the sound of their footsteps felt too loud. When they reached the wagon, everyone stopped. The barrels were still there. The dark liquid had spread farther. More grass had turned black. Small insects lay motionless on the ground nearby. Meena stepped forward and scanned the area using her tools. Her face tightened. "This is serious," she said quietly. "Very serious." Arun asked what she meant. Meena explained that the liquid was not natural. It was a harmful substance used in illegal operations. If it spread into water or soil, it could damage the forest for many years. Ravi felt his stomach sink. Arun ordered the area to be closed immediately. He marked a large danger zone around the wagon. No one was allowed to enter without protection. Meena took samples carefully and sealed them in containers. She warned everyone not to touch anything directly. As they worked, Ravi noticed something strange. The barrels were old, but the wagon wood was newer than it looked. Someone had made it appear abandoned. Meena noticed it too. "This was planned," she said. "Someone wanted these barrels hidden but not destroyed." Arun asked why anyone would do that. Meena answered slowly. "Sometimes people hide dangerous waste where they think no one will look. Forests like this are often chosen." Ravi clenched his fists. The forest had been used as a dumping ground. They searched the nearby area and found broken branches and boot marks. Someone had been here recently. Whoever left the barrels might still be close. Arun contacted higher authorities. More teams were on their way. The forest was now under full alert. As the day passed, the forest began to change. Leaves near the wagon turned pale. A small stream nearby slowed, its surface cloudy. Birds stayed away. Ravi watched helplessly. The damage was spreading faster than expected. Meena studied her readings and shook her head. "If this reaches the water system, the entire forest will suffer." Arun asked how long they had. Meena looked at the barrels and then at the trees. Not long. A decision had to be made quickly. Heavy equipment was requested, but bringing it through the forest would cause more damage. Removing the barrels was dangerous. Leaving them was worse. Ravi suggested using an old service path on the far side of the forest. It was narrow but firm. It had not been used in years. Arun agreed. It was the best chance. As they prepared, Ravi noticed something else. One barrel had a strange mark scratched into the metal. It looked like a symbol. He showed it to Meena. Her face changed. "I have seen this before," she said. "This symbol is used by groups that move harmful waste across regions." Ravi asked if they would be found. Meena replied that such groups often disappear once the waste is hidden. They rely on time and silence. The forest grew darker as clouds moved in. A light rain began to fall. Everyone became tense. Rain could spread the substance faster. Arun ordered emergency covers placed around the leaking barrel. The team worked quickly, moving with care. As the rain touched the ground near the wagon, faint smoke rose from the soil. It was not thick, but it was enough to scare everyone. Meena shouted for everyone to step back. The forest seemed to react. Trees creaked. The wind picked up. The rain fell harder. Ravi felt fear, but also anger. The forest was suffering because of human actions. By evening, temporary barriers were in place. The leak was slowed but not stopped. The barrels were still dangerous. Arun spoke to Ravi privately. "You did the right thing finding this early," he said. "If you had not, the damage would have been much worse." Ravi nodded, but he did not feel relief. He felt responsible. As night fell, lights from the ranger vehicles lit the trees. The forest looked unfamiliar under artificial light. Ravi stayed awake, watching the wagon from a distance. He could not stop thinking about who had done this and why. Somewhere out there, people knew what was inside those barrels. They had chosen this forest to hide their problem. And now the forest was paying the price. Ravi promised himself one thing. He would not let this place be destroyed without a fight. The forest had protected life for centuries. Now it needed protection more than ever. Night covered the forest slowly. The lights from the ranger vehicles created long shadows between the trees. Ravi stood near the safety line, watching the hidden wagon from a distance. The rain had stopped, but the ground remained wet and dark. The forest felt tired. Meena worked inside a small temporary tent where samples were being tested. Machines hummed softly. Screens showed numbers and warning signs. Her face was serious as she studied the results. Arun entered the tent and waited quietly. Ravi stood outside, trying to stay calm. After a long moment, Meena stepped out. She looked at both men before speaking. "The substance inside the barrels is extremely harmful," she said. "It reacts with water and soil. It slowly spreads underground. If it reaches the main water stream, it will damage everything connected to it." Ravi felt a heavy weight in his chest. "How bad?" Arun asked. Meena answered carefully. "Plants will stop growing. Animals will leave or fall sick. The soil will take many years to recover, even after cleanup." Ravi closed his eyes for a moment. He imagined the forest empty and silent. Meena continued. "This material was sealed for transport, not storage. These barrels were never meant to sit here. That meant one thing. Someone had abandoned them." At dawn, more teams arrived. Scientists, safety officers, and special equipment were brought in. Everyone moved carefully and spoke in low voices. The forest felt like a place under threat. Ravi helped guide the teams using old maps. He showed them the stream, the animal paths, and the weakest soil areas. His knowledge became important. As the sun rose, the damage became clearer. More plants near the wagon had turned dark. Small animals avoided the area. The smell was stronger. Meena pointed toward the ground. "The leak is slow, but constant. We must remove the barrels today." Arun agreed, but there was a problem. The barrels were unstable. Moving them could cause more leaks. Leaving them was not an option. The team discussed solutions. One plan involved sealing the wagon and lifting everything at once. Another involved draining the barrels safely before removal. Both plans carried risk. Ravi listened quietly, then spoke. There is an old stone clearing near the river bend. The ground there is hard and isolated. If the barrels must be opened, that place is safer. Meena looked at him with surprise. That clearing is far, she said. Ravi nodded. But it is the only place where the forest damage can be limited. After careful thought, the team agreed. Moving the barrels would take hours. Protective covers were placed. Heavy tools were prepared. Every movement was planned. As they worked, Ravi noticed something else. The wagon had been repaired recently. Nails were new. Wood pieces did not match the old parts. He shared this with Arun. This was not just dumping, Arun said. Someone intended to hide this long term. That made the situation even more serious. While preparing the path, one of the workers found footprints leading away from the wagon. They were not old. Ravi followed the trail with another ranger. The prints led toward the eastern edge of the forest. Whoever left the barrels might have been watching. The discovery made everyone uneasy. Security was increased. The forest no longer felt empty. By midday, the barrels were ready to move. The leaking barrel was reinforced with extra seals. The wagon was lifted carefully onto a special carrier. Everyone held their breath as the first movement began. The ground shook slightly. Nothing leaked. Slowly, the carrier moved along the planned path. Ravi walked ahead, checking the ground and guiding the driver. Sweat covered his face. Every step felt heavy. When they reached the stone clearing, the team stopped. The ground there was solid and free from plants. Meena gave instructions. The most dangerous barrel would be handled first. As tools touched the metal lid, a sharp sound echoed across the clearing. Ravi stepped back with the others. The seal was broken slowly. Inside the barrel was a thick dark substance. It did not move like water. It reacted to the air. Meena confirmed the worst. This material can damage living systems deeply, she said. It must be neutralized here. The team began the neutralization process. Special materials were added carefully. The process was slow and tense. Ravi watched the forest from the edge of the clearing. He noticed birds returning to distant trees. The forest was waiting. Hours passed. Finally, the dangerous substance began to change. Its color faded. The reaction slowed. Meena nodded. It is working. Relief spread through the team. But the danger was not over. One barrel remained sealed. Its contents were unknown. As they prepared to open it, a loud noise came from the forest edge. Everyone froze. A tree branch snapped. Ravi turned sharply. Someone was standing between the trees. A figure in dark clothing watched from a distance, then turned and ran. Ravi and Arun chased but stopped at the forest boundary. The person vanished beyond the trees. The message was clear. They had been seen. Whoever left the barrels knew the forest secret was uncovered. As evening approached, the final barrel was secured for safe removal. The worst danger was controlled, but questions remained. Who had done this? Why this forest? And would they return? Ravi stood at the clearing and looked back at the trees. The forest was still wounded, but alive. This battle was not finished. It was only changing shape. Morning arrived slowly over the forest. Soft light touched the trees, and a light mist rested on the ground. The stone clearing was quiet now. The dangerous substance had been neutralized, and the remaining barrels were sealed and ready for removal. Even so, no one felt calm. Ravi stood near the edge of the clearing, watching the forest. He noticed small signs of life returning. Birds flew between branches. A squirrel moved carefully across the rocks. These small moments gave him hope. Meena checked her instruments again. The readings were improving, but not fully safe. The soil will take time, she said. We stopped the worst damage, but the forest is still weak. Arun nodded. He ordered regular monitoring across a wide area. Rangers would walk the land daily and report any change. As the team prepared to leave the clearing, Ravi felt uneasy. The figure seen the night before stayed in his mind. Someone knew what had been hidden here. Back at the ranger station, maps covered the walls. Reports came in from nearby regions. Meena noticed something troubling. There are other places with similar signs, she said. Small patches of dead plants. Strange smells. Nothing confirmed yet. Ravi leaned forward. You think this happened before? Meena nodded. I think this forest was not the first choice. That idea spread fear through the room. If others had done the same elsewhere, the danger was larger than one forest. Ravi volunteered to patrol deeper areas with another ranger named Dev. Dev was quiet but sharp. He had grown up near forests and knew how to read signs. They walked along old trails that few people used. The forest here felt older and heavier. Some trees leaned with age. Rocks were covered with moss. Dev stopped suddenly and pointed to the ground. The soil looked disturbed. Not fresh, but not natural. Ravi knelt and touched it carefully. It was dry, but the plants nearby looked weak. No wagon, Dev said. But something was here. They marked the spot and moved on. As the day passed, they found 2 more similar areas. No barrels, but signs of contact. Ravi's heart sank. The forest had been tested in many places. Back at the station, Meena reviewed the findings. These are early signs, she said. Whoever did this may have been checking how the land reacts. Arun clenched his jaw. That means they might return. Security was increased. Cameras were placed at key paths. Night patrols doubled. That evening, Ravi walked alone near the main river. The water flowed gently, reflecting the sky. He remembered walking here years ago when the forest felt endless and safe. Now it felt fragile. As darkness fell, a sound echoed from deeper within the trees. A low engine noise, distant but real. Ravi stopped and listened. The sound faded, then returned. He radioed the station quietly. Arun and Dev joined him within minutes. They followed the sound carefully. It led them toward an old logging road long closed and covered with plants. Tire marks appeared in the dirt. Fresh. Someone was inside the forest again. They moved cautiously until they saw light ahead. A small vehicle stood near broken trees. 2 people worked near the back, handling covered containers. Ravi felt anger rise inside him. Arun signaled for silence. Before they could move closer, the people noticed them. One dropped a container and jumped into the vehicle. The engine roared, and the vehicle sped away, crashing through bushes and disappearing. They rushed to the spot. The container lay broken. Inside was soil, dark and damaged. The smell was faint but familiar. Meena arrived soon after with her team. This confirms it, she said. They are testing locations. The forest was being used as a hidden ground for harmful activity. Arun contacted authorities again. This time, the response was immediate. Larger forces would get involved. Ravi felt torn. Help was coming, but more people meant more disturbance. The next morning, heavy rain fell. The forest drank deeply. Streams filled and moved faster. Meena grew worried. Rain can push remaining traces deeper, she said. Teams rushed to strengthen barriers and protect water paths. Ravi worked until his arms ached. Mud covered his boots. He slipped once but kept going. As the rain slowed, something unexpected happened. New green shoots appeared near areas once damaged. The soil responded to care and protection. Meena smiled for the first time in days. The forest is fighting back. That moment gave everyone strength. Over the next days, Authorities tracked the vehicle movements. Hidden paths were blocked. Watch points were set. The forest became guarded from every side. One evening, Ravi sat near the river again. This time, he saw fish moving near the surface. The water was clearer. The forest was healing slowly. But Ravi knew the threat was not fully gone. Whoever started this had resources and knowledge. They would not stop easily. Ravi made a silent promise. As long as he stood here, this forest would not be used as a hiding place again. The trees stood tall around him. They had endured storms, fires, and time itself. Now they stood with him, waiting for the final challenge. The final days of the operation began quietly. The forest looked calm on the surface, but many people were working behind the scenes. Authorities had arrived from different regions. Their goal was clear: protect the forest and stop the hidden danger forever. Ravi woke early each morning and walked the trails. He checked the soil, the plants, and the water. He learned to notice small changes. A leaf growing stronger. A bird returning to its nest. A stream flowing clear again. These signs mattered. Meena continued to test the ground and water daily. Her reports showed slow improvement. The dangerous substance was no longer spreading. The barriers were holding. One afternoon, Arun called Ravi to the station. They found something, he said. Ravi followed him into the map room. A large screen showed images from another location far away. An old storage site had been discovered. Documents and records were found there. Meena explained the findings. This group moved harmful materials across remote areas. Forests were chosen because they are quiet and protected. They believed no one would notice small damage. Ravi felt anger rise, but he stayed calm. They were wrong, he said. The investigation moved fast after that. Routes were uncovered. Hidden vehicles were tracked. The group responsible could no longer hide. As the days passed, activity in the forest slowed. Patrols continued, but the danger faded. One evening, Ravi walked to the original site where the wagon had been found. The area was fenced and marked for recovery. New soil had been added. Young plants were growing. He knelt and touched the ground. It felt alive again. Dev joined him quietly. Hard to believe what was here, he said. Ravi nodded. The forest remembers. But it also heals. They stood together, listening to the wind move through the trees. A week later, the final barrels were removed safely from the region. The clearing returned to silence. The machines left. The people left. Only the forest remained. Meena prepared her final report. She spoke to Ravi before leaving. You saved this place, she said. Ravi shook his head. The forest saved itself. I just listened. She smiled and packed her equipment. After the operation ended, life slowly returned to normal. Visitors were allowed again in safe areas. Rangers returned to routine patrols. Ravi noticed something different within himself. He felt more connected to the land than ever before. The forest was no longer just his duty. It was a living thing that had trusted him. One morning, he saw a group of young trees growing near the river bend. They were not planted by anyone. Nature had chosen the place. Ravi smiled. Time passed. Seasons changed. Rain fell. Sunlight warmed the ground. The forest stood tall and strong. One quiet afternoon, Ravi received a message from the station. The investigation was complete. The threat was gone. The forest would be protected with stronger rules and monitoring. Ravi walked alone through the tall pines. He stopped at the spot where he first saw the wheel marks. Nothing remained. Only leaves and soil and life. He remembered the fear he felt that day. The silence. The dark liquid. The thought that everything could be lost. But it was not lost. The forest had endured. As the sun set, Ravi stood at the edge of the trees and looked back one last time. The wind moved gently through the branches. Birds called in the distance. The forest breathed freely again. Ravi turned and walked home, knowing he would return tomorrow and the day after. His work would never truly end. But for now, the danger had passed. The forest was safe. And it would remain standing for generations to come.